Composition is the way the pieces fit together on the page. Composition can be balanced in a variety of ways, depending on the use of formal elements. The formal elements are pattern, colour, texture, tone, form, shape, and line. I am arranging the pomegranates on the fabric to create a balanced composition. A balanced composition is determined by the artist's choice of formal elements. For example, Mondrian aims to balance his composition through line, shape, and colour. Frank Auerbach strives to balance form and texture, and Bridget Riley attempts to balance tone and pattern. In my composition, I aim to balance pattern, colour, texture, and form. The pomegranates are evenly spread across the fabric. I want to show the pomegranates at different angles, with the flesh of the fruit cut open and the hard shell of the skin. I want the fruit to interact with the edges of the shot. Once I'm happy with the composition, I photograph it. I print an image of the composition cropped and focused in on the fine detail of the fruit and the patterned fabric. I draw out a grid of 4/4 on the pomegranate image on white paper. I start the drawing from the top left corner to the top right corner and work down systematically until all 4 squares are filled. I'm doing a line drawing. I create a line drawing by using straight and curved lines without shading. Line is one of the most fundamental elements in art. An important feature of line is that it indicates edges of shapes and forms. In the past, many famous artists have used line drawings to quickly capture scenes from the world on paper. Here is a drawing by Edgar Degas, Vincent van Gogh, and Rembrandt. The lines in a drawing can be varied in thickness to describe a form more accurately. I am pressing lightly with my pencil so I can erase some marks if they are inaccurate. I am not including shading because I intend to paint on top of the drawing. I am thinking carefully about the size, shape, and proportion of each pomegranate in relation to each other. If the proportions are correct, it is more likely that I will create a successful painting. When the drawing is complete, I look at the image to see if I need to make any final alterations. And the drawing is complete. The next stage is to start painting. On the top of the line drawing, when I paint with watercolour, I start with the lightest colours that I can see in the image: grey, beige, and yellow. I add the colour in layers of thin washes with a fine brush. The way I make thin washes is by mixing the paint with plenty of water. I do not need to use white, as the paper is already white. I cannot paint any lighter than the colour of the paper. Whichever colour I add to the paper will stain the paper a dark tone, even if the colour is white. The watercolour white is darker and dirtier than the clean, bright white paper. I am methodical about the way I add colours. I work from adding the lightest colours to the darkest colours. After the lightest tints, I add the mid-tones, which are pale pinks and oranges. There is a tradition in still life painting of artists using fruit on fabric as a subject. Famous examples include the paintings of Paul Cézanne, Claude Monet, and Henri Matisse. More recently, I have noticed a trend in contemporary commercial artists painting pomegranates, such as Robert Lemay, Deanna Pearson, Darla McDowell, Nina R. Aid, and Ike Klein. Notice how all these artists emphasize the contrast between bright, dark, and light tones to make the paintings look dramatic. In my painting, the final layers to add are the dark washes, the deep reds and blues. I want to make them bright to make the pomegranates look juicy. Once the dark colours are suitably bright and dramatic, the painting is complete.